What's up, y'all, and welcome into the Jack Vita Show. I'm your host, Jack Vita. We are back after a long layoff, actually. We have not had an episode since September. That's because I was out in Arizona for the Arizona Fall League. Need to get a new computer. Wasn't able to record any podcasts out there, but now I have a terrific computer, and we have a fantastic guest returning to the program once again, talking all things MLB offseason. The winter meetings are coming up. I'll be heading out there in a few days. He will be too. It is the Bob father, Bob Nightengale from USA Today. Welcome back, Bob.
Thanks, Jack.
So, Bob, we've obviously had not too much news quite yet. Is this to be expected so far? What's the holdup?
Yeah, it's usually always slow. Baseball's slow. Yeah, there's no real, rhyme or reason. Everybody's always free agents always ask for more money that teams want to give, and then just everybody's kind of being patient. So, usually you'll see a little activity at the winter meetings, and then it'd be a lot of activity after the winter meetings. Usually, guys want to get signed before Christmas and the New Year's.
So winter meetings are basically an icebreaker type of thing in a lot of ways.
Yeah, just all the agents will be there, the GMs, so people can meet and say, okay, let's see if we can find some common ground here. And sometimes there's a surprise team that, steps forward. I mean, last year was dominated, of course, by Aaron Judge. This will be dominated by Yamamoto and of course, Ohtani.
Well, you mentioned Ohtani, and of course, all eyes are on him. People want to know where he is going to sign. First things first, do you think that this is going to be a long process with him, or do you think this will be over in less than a month from now?
Yeah, I think both guys, Yamamoto and Ohtani, will be over, by the end of December. So Otani's pretty much got to know who's involved, who's willing to give up what, and it's probably just going to be, his call, where he's going to be most comfortable. I don't think he's going for the top dollar, but just he wants to know what everybody's visions is, for moving forward.
Yeah, what do you think matters most to him in picking potentially a new franchise or returning to an old franchise?
Yeah, I just think he wants to win. He wants to be comfortable. He wants to know what the parameters are. At Anaheim, he only spoke the days after he pitched, so he hasn't spoken to the Angel reporter since August 9th. Did not speak after he won the MVP either. So I think he'll want to say, okay, what are the guidelines here? Do I have to talk every day? I want some privacy involved too.
Yeah, it seems like the Angels give him a little, maybe they might be able to offer him a little more freedom than it seemed like the Dodgers might.
Yeah, I mean, he's very comfortable there. Obviously, guys enjoy playing there. Yeah, sure, they wish they won more, but you say that about a lot of places. So he's a homebody. I mean, he just goes to the stadium, goes back to his condo, and that's it. Never, rarely ever goes out to eat or anything like that. So he's not like a limelight guy whatsoever.
And are you pretty convinced he's staying on the West Coast, or is there anyone, maybe a dark horse team away from the West Coast, someone else other than? Cause I mean, right now, I mean, Angels and Dodgers, I feel like those two have to be the front runners. But is there anyone else that you think has a really strong chance, or am I overrating the Angels' chances of keeping them?
Well, I think the Giants will probably offer the most money, but he likes to hit. So I'm not sure if he wants to hit in San Francisco. That's why, Chris Bryant turned him down. Aaron Judge turned him down. Giancarlo Stanton turned down the veto to trade. So it's tough to get a big slug that wants to go to San Francisco. The two dark horse candidates, of course, are the Cubs and Texas Rangers. Cubs have been perceived as a dark horse candidate, all season long. This is about Angels people think they're going to come hard. We'll see. I think though the pitching factor, you want to know when you're going to have a game. You want to know that there's a rain delay, rain outs, so you don't have those rain outs in Southern California. And if it goes to Texas, it's a controlled environment.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you think the Cubs are like a realistic landing spot, or is it more just on the Cubs end of wanting to pursue him and maybe him not having quite as much interest in playing in Chicago?
Yeah, but I think they'll throw the big bucks at him, and everybody knows what he means at the gates. He's probably worth $25 million a year off the field as far as just, the brand, licensing, merchandise. So, I mean, I think that's what the Dodgers, pretty much they want to buy the brand and become like, Japan's team, where everybody's wearing a Dodger cap over there. I'm sure the Cubs are looking the same way. I just think the weather factor in Chicago, it's going to be a hindrance. If they play in a dome or retractable roof, it'd be different, like in Texas. But I think it's a long shot to think that he'll leave Southern California.
Yeah, in the I would have to think the proximity of the West Coast to Japan, not only for him but also for fans coming in and also having games start, a little later in the day. If you're out in Japan, the game starts 3 hours later than it would if you were playing on the East Coast, and that's an early morning game if you're playing on the East Coast. I think those things might matter to him as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's just so comfortable there. Where Yamamoto, I think, wants the limelight. I think he's a lot bigger candidate to end up with the Yankees or Mets than anywhere else. Despite the fact that you said, I just think he wants to be that guy in a big city and enjoying the nightlife.
Yeah, and so Yamamoto's giving a little bit of the opposite indicators because there have been indications from Otani that he's not that interested into, like you were saying, he's not a nightlife guy, he's not a big city guy. He probably would prefer something a little more laid back on the West Coast. But Yamamoto, it sounds like, are we hearing that he wants that big time market? He wants to pitch in a big spot.
Yeah, I really think that the top suitors will be the Yankees and Mets. Not ruling out the Dodgers. The Dodgers would like to have him and Ohtani and a guy like Dylan Cease. But I just think Yamamoto will end up back east. New York got the number one market by far. It's just a different atmosphere back east than it is anywhere else. Night and day between, East Coast baseball and West Coast, just as far as the atmosphere and everything else. So I'm sure Atlanta will throw their hat in the ring and stuff like that. But I'd be surprised if it doesn't end up in New York.
So you mentioned Dylan Cease. Do you think Dylan Cease going to get traded, do you think? Or is this I know the White Sox have had opportunities to move guys in the past and they maybe wait a little longer. Is this going to be a total overhaul? Are they listening? What's that looking like?
I think they'll move them. I really do. I think everybody's just starving for starting pitchers. They got a hot commodity. You're not going to gain more from later on than you will now. So I think they move him. The Dodgers been involved. Atlanta's been involved. I would think Baltimore will jump in. They need him, and you get 2 years of him, not just 1 year. So I think they want to kind of remake that whole roster.
Yeah, it seems like there's going to be a little more available on the trade market this year than there had been in the last couple of years because I have to think the Padres are going to move Juan Soto. I mean, it sure sounds like that, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, I'm not sure, what they're going to get for him. You're talking about, a team's going to have to pay him about $33 million a year. He's already come out and said, he wants over $500 million as a free agent. So, how much are you going to give up for 1 year? And give up prospects and pay that kind of salary. That's a tall order.
Yeah, you mentioned there's just such a need for starting pitching right now, especially. There's a lot that could be available in the trade market. I've been seeing some reports about teams being interested in Tyler Glasnow, Shane Bieber, and Corbin Burns. Do you think all three of those guys get moved?
I'm not sure about Burns. I think Bieber gets moved. He could get moved later on in spring training for people to make sure he's healthy. I think Glasnow gets moved for sure. Burns, we'll see. I think they'd like to keep him and see if they can still make another run at the NL Central. But without Brandon Woodruff, that's a tall order.
Circling back to the Cubs, if they are unable to land Ohtani, what do you think the Cubs do? I mean, they go out, they get counsel. Seems like, hey, we're here to play. We're going to make a big move or two. What do you think their offseason is going to look like?
Well, then I think they'll start, reaching out to, different guys, and, they'll, could they reach out and grab a Blake Snell? That's possible. one of the top free agent pitchers out there. Good trade for Cease themselves. I mean, they had him before. They get him back again, and these two teams aren't afraid to make trades with one another. So I think they'll be very active trying to get another starting pitcher. And that's the thing about Ohtani. Who knows when he'll pitch again? I know everybody says, he'll pitch in 2025. Well, he had Tommy John surgery 5 years ago. It took him 2 years to recover. So now he's older. Recovery time is greater because you're a DH at the same time. So it's not like this guy's getting ready for opening day 2025.
How's the market shaping up for Cody Bellinger?
I think the price tag involved, scares a lot of teams. I would think San Francisco, Yankees, Cubs, and I'm not sure after that. So I think he'll want over $200 million. I don't think he'll, at one point people were talking about $300 million. That's not going to happen. So, but I would think those three teams, if I had a bet, it would be Yankees or Giants.
No Cubs.
I wouldn't think so. I mean, they had him. They know him very well. The big question is this the Cody Bellinger, last year, is that the guy for real? Or is it the one who struggled for the last couple of years with the Dodgers, who gave up on him? Dodgers don't make too many mistakes. So, we'll see what happens. So I think people a little leery. They love the defense. They just don't know about the offense.
I think the Cubs should try to keep Cody Bellinger because, you mentioned what he looked like last year. I do think that this is a new Cody Bellinger. It's a different Cody Bellinger. I mean, he cut down his strikeouts nearly in half last year from 150 to 87. Really shortened his approach, shortened his swing with 2 strikes, commanded the strike zone much better. And then obviously you mentioned the defense and the versatility to play a couple of different positions. I think if the Cubs are wanting to go out and potentially trade for Juan Soto or a Pete Alonso or someone like that, I think they'd be better off just keeping Bellinger personally.
They could. It's just a question, how much money you want to pour into them. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
They're not going to get Ohtani. If you have a chance to go to Ohtani or Yamamoto, you're going to do that. But yeah, I mean, Bellinger's going to be a lot cheaper, obviously than Soto, and probably cheaper too than Pete Alonso. I mean, Pete Alonso is going to want over $200 million in free agency too in a year from now.
And you'd have to give up some prospects to get either one of those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And, particularly with Soto, I mean, it's probably a one-year wonder type thing. I think he's probably going to want to go, back east, enjoy the AL East or the NL East. He likes that limelight and that sort of thing. Teams, aren't sure. I mean, a year from now, 2 years from now, Soto might just be a DH or first baseman. The defense has gone backwards and not a good base runner.
Yeah, I mean, his defense has gotten very poor. And you mentioned base running, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if he's going to get that $500 million extension offer. I mean, he got offered reportedly $500 million, but do you think he's going to get that much when he's up for contract next year?
We'll see. I mean, we'll see. He's going to have a monster year. He got offered $440 by the Nationals. A lot was deferred. And that was a couple of years ago. We'll see where it goes, but I think he's got to step up his game defensively and base running. I mean, it's one thing to get a walk, but if you're just standing on first base, clawing at the base pass, what good does it do? It's not like he's stealing second, stealing third.
Speaking of the Cubs, Marcus Stroman, were you surprised when he opted out? I mean, because I personally, he was going to get, I think, $23 million next year. I mean, is he going to get that on another team next year? I mean, truthfully, that surprised me a little bit. I thought he would just opt back in.
Yeah, it was at $21 million. I think the Cubs are happy about it. I think they want to go a different direction, and it's a lot of money for a starting pitcher. Although we're seeing some of these guys get 25. Whether it's a Sonny Gray, whether it's in Philadelphia bringing back Aaron Nola. So the 25's realistic. I'm sure he's looking for a multi-year deal. It's not like he's going to sign for a 1-year deal for 25. I'm sure he's hoping for get a Sonny Gray type contract, get a 3-year deal out of it.
And do you think he gets that though?
Could. I mean, we'll see. I mean, at some point, not enough starting pitchers to go around. So someone say, you know what, I believe in him. I think what he's done over the years, he's been, he got banged up there with the Cubs. Wasn't healthy, had been healthy in the past. So we'll see. Yeah, I think he gets it. I think it's a 2-year deal, probably for around 50. We'll see about a 3-year deal. But I'm sure he's going to wait out until he gets it. And, some teams will start to get desperate here.
So you mentioned Sonny Gray contract. Cardinals remake their pitching. They go out, they get Sonny Gray 3 years, $75 million. Kyle Gibson on a 1 year, $12 million, and Lance Lynn on a 1 year, $10 million. Older pitching staff. You've got Michaelis in there at 35 years old. Steven Matz is 32. Lance 36. Kyle Gibson 36. Sonny Gray 34. Do you think they did enough to improve their pitching staff for next season to get back to the top of the NL Central, or do they need to do a little more?
Well, I think they need to work in that bullpen. We'll see. I mean, they got probably 6, 7 starters. Probably need more than that. I think the right guy is out there. They'll grab him, and they could trade Steven Matz, move Steven Matz in the bullpen, but they could trade Matz very easily and try to get some more pitching help. So, I mean, at least they can go into this season comfortable with this, not ecstatic with it, but comfortable. And you got 3 guys who eat up innings. These guys, go, 180, 200 innings a year, which is big, and that's what they want. And all 3 guys are, gamers and great in the clubhouse.
Yeah, and it's not an impossible division either. I mean, I could very easily see them come back to the top of that division quickly.
Yeah, it's a weak division, and we'll see what happens. I mean, probably doesn't even take 90 wins to win the division. So it's, wide open again, particularly with the Reds. The Reds need to make a move. The Reds made a big play for Sonny Gray. So I think they'll be active in free agency here too. So outside the Pirates, the other 4 teams in Central, I'll get them a chance to win the division.
Yeah, could you see the Reds making that move through the trade market instead of free agency? Because obviously it's not a big market team, although it does sound like they'd be willing to spend a little bit. And they do have a lot coming up through that pipeline.
Yeah, they've got to trade some of those guys. And, you don't have a place to play for all of them anyway. So, why not make a move? Same like with Baltimore Orioles. They got so many position player prospects. It's like you got to trade some of these guys if you want some pitching help. So, no, I can see the Reds definitely being aggressive in the trade market.
You think the Orioles are going to make a big move this winter? I mean, they did. They're not, again, similar team, not a big time spender, but about 10 years ago, they gave Chris Davis that big contract, and obviously it didn't work out, but that showed like, hey, you know what, we'll make a move like that every now and then to try to compete. Do you think that they're close to doing something like that, or do you think they're going to be a little more passive?
I think they'd be aggressive. I think they have no choice. I mean, they just, win the division. They get the best, young raw talent in the American League East. There's no reason they can't, put a stranglehold in this division for the next 4 or 5 years. But you need some frontline pitching to do so. If I'm them, I'm all over Dylan Cease. Remember now, their GM used to be assistant GM under Jeff Luhnow in Houston. And that's what Luhnow did. He had the great young prospects, and he went out and traded for Verlander, went out and traded for Garrett Cole. And that's what you need to do. And I think they'll follow the same blueprint.
I want to ask you about a few more of these teams and players. So Matt Chapman, what's the market looking like for him?
Well, Toronto would like to bring him back. Start off strong, faded badly as the year went on. San Francisco needs a third baseman. They'd like to bring him home. Seattle just traded Suarez to the Arizona Diamondbacks. They could use a third baseman. So I would think one of those 3 teams would make the most sense.
How about Blake Snell?
And if I'm the Mariners, I try to sign Snell and trade away some of those young pitchers for some offensive help. He wants to play there. I don't rule out San Francisco Giants. I think some teams like Philadelphia backed off because they weren't sure how he'd react in a big market. He's never played in a big market. Jury's out whether how he'd react under pressure. So I would think those teams would make sense. I wouldn't rule out a St. Louis. I wouldn't rule out an Atlanta. But, he only I think pitched in the sixth inning just 3 times last year. That scares teams.
Are there any guys that you look at and think, hey, this guy might be a short-term contract, but could be a nice little pickup, undervalued guy on the free agent market right now?
Well, I can see a Michael Wacha, who pitched very well for the Padres last year. And, he's got a great winning percentage the last 2 years. I think he's number 1 in baseball. But, yeah, he's a gamer and everything else. But I think Wacha would fill that role for sure. Maybe Seth Lugo, another guy from the Padres. But those type of guys, Jordan Montgomery, I think Montgomery's price is going higher and higher with what he did, and he's proven he can pitch in the big markets.
Yeah, who's in Montgomery right now? Who's it looking like?
Well, I would think Texas would be all over him. They know what he did, what he means in that clubhouse. Yankees would like to have him back. He'd be perfect in Baltimore. He can handle the pressure. He's proven that. So I think the market's wide open for this guy.
So the Yankees could potentially be giving him a nice contract less than 2 years after trading him at the deadline.
Yeah, I think he opened their eyes where they didn't think he was going to make their playoff roster. He went to St. Louis and pitched lights out. We saw what we did last year with the Rangers. So yeah, it's almost like they'd be conceding, hey, we made a mistake here. We need the guy.
Another guy that I think could be a nice small, short-term, nice pickup, a little cheaper, Michael Lorenzen. He pitched really well. Honestly, I thought that the Phillies could have used him a little more in the postseason than they did. But he threw that no-hitter, came over to Philly. He had a great year. It sounds like, John Morosi was on MLB Network this morning. It sounded like what he was hearing was that the Tigers and the Angels are both interested in bringing him back, and that speaks volumes is when you want to bring a guy back. So I think he could be a nice pickup on a shorter, cheaper contract.
Yeah, you can sort of get him on a 2-year contract for sure.
Yeah.
Both teams like him a lot, pitched well for the Angels and the Tigers. And pitched lights out the no-hitter for Phillies, but wasn't the same after that game. So, so the Phillies, may not have seen the real Michael Lorenzen. They'll probably going to let him walk. But, yeah, I could see him going back to certainly Southern California. Who knows, maybe even the Dodgers. The Dodgers need pitching. He's a Southern California guy. And the Dodgers get a lot of guys. I wouldn't rule out the Dodgers at all.
Phillies gave Nola that big extension. Are they done? Or is there more to come from them this winter?
They'll tinker around. They still need to kind of rebuild that bullpen. It won't be Josh Hader, but they need to get some bullpen parts in there. I could see them like a Michael Wacha type guy, not a Yamamoto or anything like that. But a Wacha would fit their things. A Seth Lugo would fit them in. Those guys would make the most sense to me.
Houston Astros I feel like I have not seen much Astros rumors aside from they could be dangling Alex Bregman. Is there something to that? Are they going to have a relatively quiet offseason?
I think it'll be quiet. They're almost up against the luxury tax. There's not a whole lot for them to do. They've been to 7 straight ALCSs now, 4 World Series, won 2 of them. So I think Bregman teams are calling because he's a free agent after next year. I'm sure they're asking about Altuve too. But the Astros have made it clear to me, extending Altuve is their number 1 priority. Bregman isn't. I think they think Bregman's going to be too expensive where they want to make Altuve an Astro for life.
So would they rather just kind of do what they did with Correa and Springer, where you hold on to the guy and just use him up through his service time, or once he hits free agency, just let him walk? Or would they actually consider, hey, maybe we'll trade him right now a year early?
I don't think they trade him a year early. I really don't. Maybe if they're out of the race come July, they would trade him. But I think they want to go for this thing and continue it. It's not like they're rebuilding mode by any means. I mean, they could have easily won the World Series this year. So no, I think they keep Bregman. They'll listen to everybody, just like every other GM. But I think it'd take a ton for them to move Bregman because they need him.
Yeah, they were only one game away from that World Series. I think if they get into that World Series, I think they win that World Series. And it's kind of funny because it felt like a quote unquote down year for the Astros, and they very nearly won the World Series.
Yeah, I mean they didn't get into the didn't win the division to the last day of the season. I think that's what made it look funny. But then blew everybody away in the postseason until they ran to Texas. Won all three in Texas, but couldn't win one of four games in Houston, which was strange. It was like a repeat of 2019 with the Nationals.
And it's funny, I got to give you credit, Bob. The last time you were on, we were talking about Texas had been having this huge collapse in early September, late August, and you were like, "They're going to be fine. They're going to get in." I think you said they're going to win the division, or maybe you didn't, but you said they're going to get in. Didn't matter, and you said they're going to be a good team come postseason, and you were right. They won the World Series.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of Atlanta a couple of years ago, where they were struggling down the stretch with the bullpen. The bullpen was awful. Then the bullpen pitches lights out, in October. Same thing here, where their bullpen was awful. And they pitched lights out in October. Might be the Will Smith factor. You sign Will Smith, you win a World Series.
Okay, a couple more things. New York Mets, new GM. What's this winter going to look like? You think they're going to, you mentioned they're going for Yamamoto. Are they going to go for anything else?
They're still trying to win. They want to win it all, or be very, very competitive. 2025, not 2024. So I don't believe the Soto rumors whatsoever. That just doesn't, look what they want to do. If they're going to do that, they would have kept, Verlander and Scherzer. So, and I do think Pete Alonso's very much available. Obviously they haven't come close in contract talks. He's represented now by Scott Boras, who likes to take a guy all the way through. So even though it's not a popular move to trade him, I think they'll certainly listen to offers.
Speaking of the Big Apple, the other team in the Empire State, the New York Yankees, very disappointing year. Finished fourth place in that division, missed the postseason. Is there going to be something a little reactionary to, hey, you know what? We got to go out. We got to make a big play here this winter and make a big move or two.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can see them, all over a Bellinger, or Soto. I think they're going to get one of the two. And then they'll get Yamamoto themselves. Every time when things are looking, bleak, they spend a ton of money, just like they did in 2009, 2013. So this could be the same thing this time. So no, I think the fans are be clamoring for a big move, and they'll make it.
I think Bellinger feels like a perfect fit for them.
Yeah, I mean the fact they need a center fielder, can play first base. Rizzo's only back, for one more year. Can spell Rizzo, let Rizzo DH in those days. So yeah, and obviously he can handle the big markets. He played in LA, played in Chicago. So the number 2, number 3 market so far. So why not the number 1 market?
All right, well, Bob, I got one more thing for you here. We've got 2 or 3 more days left in November. Christmas season is upon us. What's your favorite Christmas movie?
It's a Wonderful Life. It's a Wonderful Life movie.
That's a classic.
Yeah,
it's a great one.
Absolute classic. Yeah, every time it's on, I can't stop but watch it.
Any fun traditions for Christmas season in the Nightingale house?
No real traditions. I remember growing up, we were allowed to open up presents from our grandparents on Christmas Eve, and then Christmas morning, run downstairs to the tree. But that was our only a real tradition.
Well, he's Bob Nightengale, USA Today. I'll give him a chance to plug his work. Thank you for carving out a little bit of time here today. I know you've been a very busy man. Bob, why don't you throw out your social media, how people can check out the work that you're putting out?
Yeah, I usually post all my stories on my Twitter account. So just B Nightingale, or you can go to usatoday.com. It'll be all my stories will be on that site as well.
All right. Well, Bob, thanks again. I'll see you in a few days at the winter meetings.
All right. Look forward to it. See you in Nashville.
All right, y'all. That concludes our conversation today with the great Bob Father himself, Bob Nightengale. Was fun talking a little bit of early offseason stuff. Hopefully by the next time we release an episode, there'll be a lot for us to break down and discuss and analyze. That's my intention. So next week I'll be at the winter meetings. We'll see if I'm able to get an episode out. We'll also see if there's a lot of news. If there's a lot of news, maybe we'll it's gonna be fun. There's Lance Brozdowski and I have got an Airbnb. There are gonna be 6 of us in this house for 4 nights. We saved quite a bit of money on it, so it's going to be a really fun time. So if we find time and there's a lot of news and rumors and maybe Ohtani signs, then we could potentially be dropping an emergency podcast, or maybe I'll pull over Dan O'Dowd or somebody from MLB Network, or one of the baseball writers that's out there at the meetings. It'll depend on, how busy everyone is and what all is going on. I've never been to these meetings before, so it's possible we might not have an episode next week, but we certainly will 2 weeks from now, and I'm sure that by then we'll be having some off-season news. We'll also be doing, again, my apologies, I should have given a greater warning and let you guys know that I was going to be out for a while, but we're back now. We'll be having episodes coming out regularly once again. Maybe we'll do a football episode sometime soon as well. We'll see how busy everything is with baseball and what kind of news. If we're not getting much news, maybe we'll talk some football or some college basketball on here. And we'll also, I know for our reality TV fans, we'll have some episodes coming up in the next couple months with some reality TV contestants. I know I do have one guest from Big Brother who will likely be joining us soon, another guest from Survivor. So once I lock in those dates of recording, I will let you know who's coming on, give you guys a chance to submit some listener questions for those guests. And then we'll have a lot of good stuff coming out soon. So you guys can please subscribe to the Jack Vita Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever it is that you're listening or watching this podcast. Follow me on social media. That is at Jack Vita Show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And until our next episode, I'm Jack Vita. Bring in the Dance of the Lobsters.